Hello, people.
on! Happy
It's
Friday! I
Friday. See, thinking
I
the
love
same
it.
thing. It's Friday.
I know. All right, for everybody out there, welcome to episode 10 for no particular reason, where my amazing co-host Yankov, which is such a cool name when you think about it, Yanko, a hypnotist out of I think Chicago, but I always forget this stuff, somewhere over there. Discusses with me, Kerri Lewis, all things about nothing in particular. So thanks for joining us for this edition. How you doing today, Yanko?
Pretty good, pretty good. And I
Love
kind of feel
it.
pumped now.
I know. Well,
I know. Thank
it
you.
just
That was great.
right. All it took
Yeah.
was a pill and a pizza. No, just kidding, people. So prior to us hitting live, Yanko and I were talking about movement, and something that I love to do when I'm feeling low energy or just in a malaise is to dance. And so I put on a song that had a nice bop to it, and we were bopping. And so now we're bopping into this show, and I'm ready to rock and roll. What about you?
I'm kind of the same. I'm feeling great. It's Friday, all that energy, everything, and you're right about that. It's something about the body moving. It's moving the energy. It's shifting. It always helps. I'm even thinking of like, sometimes they have events around me because I'm on in the Chicagoland area, and they have like shamanic drumming and stuff like that. So I'm thinking one of those weekends I'll go to one of those
That would be
and
so
get some
cool.
drumming going. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, it's funny, on my music playlist I have a lot of Native American music, and like actually, just because why not, I'll show you a little bit of what I do, and I'll totally vibe to it because there's something about just I don't know, it just gets me flowing. Okay, so this is one of them. And then hang on, it goes. I'm gonna jump in if it takes too long because I don't want to torture our audience. But but anyway, I remember going to a Native American, I don't even know what it's called, when I was young, and it had such a profound effect on me. I remember just feeling so much joy. And then, like, fast forward 30 plus years later, I am still very much drawn to like the flute and the drums and just the rhythmic beats. It just gets me so excited.
I know music sometimes puts you on that like outer state of being, like in a trance state where you kind of like allow your body to do whatever it needs to do to like relax or, you know, deload and in unload or whatever you want to call it. So it's great. I don't know. Lately, I've been thinking about stuff like that. I was in a conference when I even tried a cacao ceremony. I don't know if you ever experienced one of those. So it's specially harvest cacao beans.
Do you know
Yeah.
Tarek? Hi, Tarek.
Hello, Tarek. Thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate it.
He's a friend. So
Well, this time it's
cacao
in English,
ceremony.
so I can read it. The last time it was in, I don't know.
Oh,
I was like, I have no idea what this
uh,
says, but I appreciate you dropping a comment. Hey,
well,
so
a lot of my friends are from Bulgaria. So, and if it's coming up, they just hop on and assume that it's Bulgarian, or maybe like I understand it. So, no problem there.
yeah,
But
you can
to circle
decipher it.
back in the cacao ceremony, um, that was like the whole mood and the setup was great, and there was a little bit of drumming to get you in that thing, but the cacao they harvest it like specially picking it up by hand and grinding it and mixing it. It's not like it gives you any kind of hallucinations or anything like ayahuasca would.
Yep.
But the whole ceremony, it was amazing. I highly recommend to anybody that haven't experienced cacao ceremony to do it.
Tarek, we
Oh, we
appreciate you
appreciate
being
you
here.
stopping by.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. We
You can
like to
always
chat to
join
the
us too.
audience. So if
We love
anybody
good
else wants to share,
conversation.
ask us anything, we're here for you.
Yep. Um, that's interesting. Truthfully, I don't like you say cacao, and I
Right.
immediately think chocolate. Like I'm like, oh, he's feeling chocolate. I'm with it. I don't know what that is. I know what ayahuasca
I know
is.
because like yeah. So I mean if you look around your yeah, if you look around your neighborhood somewhere, if there is somebody, maybe I can find somebody that I recommend to you. Um, but like the whole drumming with everything and clearing the space and setting the intention and the mood, and you have the cacao, and it doesn't taste like chocolate per se. It's still like you have the cacao taste,
Yep.
but it's a lot more richer because like if I can compare it to coffee, because like I love coffee, if the way of how you're preparing it matters, because in coffee, when you steam it in high temperature, a lot of the oils vaporize, and so you lose a lot of the taste and everything. But without cacao, like when you have it in the little cup, you can see the oils on the top and everything that the cacao releases, and it was just amazing. It was a great experience.
Well, it's so funny because we started this topic about movement,
Yeah, we're
which
getting
is
good energy here too. Like my friend Kerri set the mood really good. So welcome aboard.
um so we started talking about movement in the beginning, which I think is really important, particularly for our audience, guys. Our body is not meant to be sedentary. And I just had this conversation yesterday with my community, and again this morning with a woman I was having breakfast with. And, I think there's a lot of narrative that makes people believe there's something wrong with them because they can't focus for long periods of time, or there's something wrong with them for getting distracted. And I tell people all the time, we're energy. We are constant energy that flows. And so we need to move our body. And when you start to feel kind of sluggish, even if it's at school, I encourage my children all the time. I don't even care. Get up and say you have to go to the bathroom and skip down the hall. Or, you know what I mean? Get up and shake your hand to something, because it will start to move that energy, and it will naturally bring like a lighterness to you, even if you're doing hard things. And that's
Yeah,
super, super important. But then you brought another topic up while you were talking about the cacao that I think is important to highlight too, which is intention. Like, so you talked about like the intention, the setting of the space that you guys went into so that you could prepare this cacao. And I'm a huge proponent of setting intentions for how I want my day to unfold, how I hope to show up in service for people, how present I can be as a mom. So I'm constantly kind of setting the stage for the experience I want to have before I have it. And that really helps ground me into whatever I'm doing so that I can experience the benefits of whatever it is I'm doing as best as I can. I'm leaving that for you to answer, Yanko.
right. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of the same to me, but sometimes I get involved in whatever the play is. So I have to like circle back and get to whatever the intention was set to be, and that applies to anything. If you let your mind running wild, you're just running wild. Like
Yeah.
there's no thought behind, because you start to do one thing, then something comes up, you go into that thing, and then you hop on the next thing, and in 15 or 20 minutes you might even forget what you originally set up to do, and you end up doing something else.
Yeah.
And and it's kind of funny, because when you think about it, you think you're most people think that they're living their life. They think they're in control, but they're not actually in control. Like the mind controls them, and they're just running autopilot with thoughts or things that are repeating themselves. And some people go even to the extent when they start getting hard on themselves, because they'll have like a critical thoughts coming in, and they'll start verbalizing it and be like, yeah, I've done it again, look at me, what an idiot I am, and all that. And they're doing the self-talk, which is also a really really bad idea. I know you wanna comment on that.
You know I do, because I work in addiction and mental health. And here's the thing. Well, one thing that I've come to understand is um it is going to be our natural default to think negatively, to think from our ego, right? But for anybody who's like, ego seems really obscure to me, and I get that. Like, it is our natural default to have negative thoughts, ants, automatic negative thoughts, right? Because I mean, for so many reasons that I'm not going to get into, because it gets really heavy and deep. But if you know that, then that then gives you permission to be like, okay, I'm not bad, or there's nothing wrong with me for having a negative thought. But I can decide whether I'm going to let that negative thought control how I experience whatever's going on. So if I have a negative thought about myself and laugh at it because I know it's ridiculous, which is most of the time where I come from now, it doesn't impact my energy, and I really don't spiral into that story. But if I don't catch myself, that's where you said, our mind just has this thinking, it's like a monkey mind, and you're just spiraling into, I know for myself, when I was seeped in addiction, this abusive vitriol that would just keep me in shame and guilt. And so you're right. I think, yes, we're going to have those negative thoughts, but setting an intention, right? And not even an intention of how this show is going to go. I don't say, oh, I intend for me and Yanko to change the world. No. But I do set the intention. I intend to be present and laugh often and have fun while showing up on the show with Yanko. And the reason I do that is because there's not an expectation of how the show will come out, but there I create this idea of how I want to feel. So when I have an automatic negative thought, which naturally happens to all of us, I can think, well, does that thought serve the way I want to feel? And if it doesn't, I'm like, be gone, you don't serve me. So that's how I kind of deal with that. But yeah, I am a big fan of setting intentions. And when I'm consistent at it, as I shared with you before we jumped on the show, like, life just seems to just work out. I don't have to work hard. It just kind of, it's like, oh, cool. Like this one, I woke up. I said, thank you so much. I really appreciate an opportunity to experience whatever comes my way today. My intention is to feel peaceful, joyful, and free. That's usually my intention in the morning when I wake up. And as I shared with you, one of my clients canceled. I got invited to a breakfast unexpectedly, which opened up opportunities and all of that. So being open is important. And then Tarek, absolutely, please ask a question. You don't have to ask either. You can either jump on and put it out there, and we'll be glad to answer it.
That's right.
While Tarek types in the question, um, what was your intention for today, Yanko?
My intention for today was to just have a wonderful day. I didn't really had an intention.
Yeah.
Sometimes, my intention is to be able to do some sort of service when I wake up in the morning. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Like if I can just smile at somebody, that could be it. Like I'm not looking to do greater things that I'm tasked to do. So one thing at a time, and
Well,
and so that's usually how it is. And
speak.
sometimes I just get excited from like life just grabs me right at the morning by my son, jumping in the bed and saying, "Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up." Yeah. So let me like Tarek have a question. Yeah, let me post it for everybody to see. How do you direct your mind when you realize you have a negative thoughts? Okay. Do you want to take that or us or me or we can both go? I'll take it. All right. So usually you have to when you catch it, you have to do some kind of interrupt to get out of that thought because usually thoughts are repeating and you have like repeating thoughts that are going on. um, in hypnosis they call it a pattern interrupt because you're like you've done this many times before you get to that point. You kind of train your mind to act that way because you weren't conscious of like what really is going on. And because of that you get to that point when you had that going on for you. So usually you don't change it by pure force. You don't go and say, I'm not going to think of that, because there's also a thing that affects a lot of people when they have a thought. Like I'll give you an example. If you're sitting in, if you're staying in bed and you're just here you go. Come on back. If you're on bed and you're just you can't go to sleep, and the harder you try to go to sleep, the harder it gets to fall asleep. And once you give up of that idea of trying to force it to go into sleep, then that goes away. So in a way, uh, when that happens and you get aware of it, then you direct your mind to something else. Whatever interrupts that thought, whatever interrupts that behavior or anything that's happening in the moment, like maybe laugh or maybe direct your mind and your thought in some other direction. That's what I'll say.
Am I showing up on both? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's not showing up. There you go.
Hang on.
You're okay. I got you.
Well, I'm going to try to stay on my computer because it's better, but we'll see. We shall see.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So Tarek, so your question is, how do you redirect your mind when you have a negative thought? Well, here's the thing. This is from my experience. What you resist persists, right? Same as emotions. What you try to convince yourself not to feel, what you try to convince yourself not to think, you're actually going to ruminate. And in fact, I want to say it's Abraham Hicks, but don't quote me. Once you have a thought for like 9 seconds, you're going to double the time you have that thought to then 18 seconds. And then it doubles and doubles and doubles, right? So the more you ruminate on that thought, saying, so think about it like, oh, Kerri, your internet just went out. People are going to think you're bad because you're unprofessional, right? Like, I don't care, but I'm just saying that could be a thought you had, right? Now I'm like, oh, don't think about the fact that people might think you're unprofessional because that's not going to help you. That's actually still thinking about the thought, because now you're trying to tell yourself you can't, think about it. And so what I would encourage you to do, what Yanko said, I know he said think about laughter or whatever. You want to redirect your mind. And so for me, the fastest way to do that is to do box breathing, or stick my hand
Yep.
in cold water, or you want to do something visceral that you have to focus on, because if you're focusing on your inhales and your exhales, you can't actually think about the thought you're trying to avoid thinking about, right? So that's a practice for me. And then if that doesn't work, interestingly enough, it kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier, um, is moving my body. Like if I feel like I'm stuck, if I'm ruminating on something, I'm a mother of two daughters. And if we have like a tough encounter, I'll put on a song and I'll just start moving my body, because kind of just letting that experience go through movement and music helps me kind of not keep spinning into that thought, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think he had a follow-up question on that. Breathing, what exactly helps?
Yeah. Yep. Breathing is it's interesting. So, um, as I mentioned, right, I work in addiction and mental health recovery. And the one thing I will say to the audience, to follow up on Tarek's question and my answer, sometimes if you're panicked, if you're having a panic attack, breathing will exacerbate that problem, right? If you're focused on your breathing, but you're already having issues breathing, that's not the solution. So then what you want to do is you want to ground into the present moment. So touch, feel something, feel the wall, like look at a color, try to ground into the moment, like where you're at, and then breathe, because a lot of
Yeah.
times people will try to breathe when they're already panicking, and that can make it worse. And I think that that's an important um note to highlight, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And it depends on the situation, and and we're sharing our experiences. We're not like uh, doctors or anything that tells you this is how it is, because like everyone is different, and everyone does operate and different, and even experiencing reality is subjective to the person. So I might
Perspective.
experience it in one way. Yeah, Kerri can experience it differently. You experience it differently. See what works for you, but whatever works for you. The best thing is that you noticed it when you caught it and you noticed it. That's the best, because if you don't notice that, that's the first step. Once you notice it, then you can deal with it. But you haven't noticed it, and you let it run on automatic, and you keep doing the same thing, and then you're like going from one emotion to another emotion, and you're spiraling to things, and that isn't going to really help.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I
Well,
appreciate you coming in and asking questions.
I really do. Thank you so much. And please, if you have any other questions, very, very grateful for your engagement. Um, and I want to touch upon and agree with what Yanko said, and I think it's really important. The work that we do is a culmination of strategies and tools and applications that both Yanko and I have experienced throughout our own journey, right? To become the healers that
Yep.
we are in this moment, whatever that looks like. However, to Yanko's point, all of that is a framework, because we are so individualistic. And so it's really important. Yes, Tarek, you completely recognized that, but also that if anybody's watching, you play. If breathing doesn't feel right, if touching the couch doesn't feel right, try something else, because as long as you come from a place of curiosity, rather than judgment, which judgment could be like, oh, I'm never going to get over this feeling, or oh, I'm always going to think negatively, or oh, whatever, then you can't learn. But if you come from a place of curiosity and say, okay, they said to breathe, but that's not working. What else can I do? You will eventually stumble on something that feels really supportive and right for you. And as you do that, you'll learn new tools and strategies to continue your journey.
Yeah. In my experience, also, you always get what you need when you need it, and you get it right when you need it. So you're always supported. Life, life happens for you. So enjoy.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because you and I know that. And yet, because of the community I work in, it's true. And yet, when you experience trauma and stuff, that can feel really hard to hear. And so I always encourage people, I'm like, what's that mean, life happens to you? Well, even if that feels icky sticky, what are the things that experience you were going through or gone through um taught you? If nothing else, it taught you something, right? Being an abuse survivor, or being fired from a job, or whatever, that can feel hard, right? When people say, well, that happened for you. Totally get it. But if you look at those experiences from curiosity rather than feeling like, badly about it or judgmental about it, you will find that you benefited from whatever experience you had. But you have to step back from that, like, judgment of it, and kind of look at it from a more unbiased perspective, which is a practice within itself, I think. Would you agree, Yanko?
Yeah, everything it's a practice. Like from the day you were born, you practiced breathing for first time. And then you practice walking. And then you practice speaking, and you were bad at it, and you were saying things the wrong way. But then as practice progressed, you get good at it.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, if you really want something, it'll happen for you. It'll happen. But the problem is that most of the time we don't know what we want.
Yep.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I mean,
So
it's interesting you say that. So, if anybody's been, if you've been watching this show from the beginning, y'all know I'm working on building my glutes, right? Like, I have this goal in mind, but I wouldn't know what I was going to do at the gym if I didn't get clear on what the result was that I wanted. And I think that so often in life, people kind of just go along to get along. Okay, society said I need to go to school and college, and then I get a job, I buy a house, I have 2.5 kids, get an animal, get married, have, cars, and maybe go on a couple vacations. So if you start to look at, okay, well, does that even feel really good for me? And what is it I really want to do? What do I hope to accomplish? When you start to get curious and come up with a goal, even if it's a really small one, your brain has a reticulating activation system, which means it's going to start to direct you in the area in which you've
where
gotten
you
clear
going?
you want to be on, right? So if
Yeah.
you know, okay, I want to work on my glutes, my brain is going to guide me, interestingly enough, to the things that I need to do to achieve the goal that I want. And so you're spot on, and I agree with you, Yanko. Most people aren't clear about what they hope to achieve, and so they're kind of walking around aimlessly in this life, in this, like, unclear state. And then as soon as you start to get dialed in on what you hope to achieve, small things will start appearing so that you can actually achieve that goal.
Yeah, and I want to see if I can tell people how I actually do it. Like if I'm unsure about something, I usually go within and I visualize it and I see what will come out of that. Say I want to have a new car, then I'll go through the whole process of like imagining it. Because, like, when you imagine a thing, your brain does not know the difference between real and not real. Because for the brain, it's real when you're imagining things, and if somebody haven't done that, they can try to imagine a lemon right now and they're probably going to start salivating just by thinking about the lemon, not
Yep.
that there is a lemon in the room or anything. So when I go on that exercise, I can go to as many details I want. Like I can go into the details of like how I'm going to a different car dealers or how I'm looking at a different cars, and I can see different colors of cars or different models of cars and different interior and see what it feels okay for me. Like how did the seats feel like when I go in the car, and imagine the whole process. And then when you get to it, you go through the whole thing and you can see on the end or have the experience of like actually happening and kind of saying that maybe that wasn't the thing you wanted. Maybe you just wanted to have the experience of having the new car. And then when you feel like, maybe that wasn't it, then you jump on the next thing that you wanted to, get or whatever you felt like you needed. And you can continue to work on that to see where it goes and what comes out of that. Like you get
Yeah.
that, then okay, now that you have that, what comes out of that? Like say I needed a car so I can find a job. Okay, now you have a car. What comes out of that? Well, now I'll go look for a job. So okay, now you have the job, but then what comes out of that? Like you have the job. Well, I need the job to get to whatever else I'm going, and that's my plan. Or maybe along the way you figure that you really didn't need that, jump from this step to this step to get to the other step. And that's how I usually do it, and I think it's doable for anybody to do, and they can experiment with that and have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I love visualization. I've been doing it for years now. In fact, a lot of the one percenters will tell you. I mean, think about Kobe Bryant, right? And I only use him because Nana, my significant other, is like a basketball freak and those are his boys. But he like not only did he practice physically, but he visualized the shots he was going to take. He visualized running up and down the court. He visualized, and some of the greatest thought leaders will tell you that you need to visualize what it is you want to have manifest, you want to have come into your life. And it is a practice. And the thing that I would say for anybody out there who's new to visualization, one, you do it all the time, because I know Yanko, especially being a hypnotist, will tell you that you go in and out of different states of consciousness throughout the day. But if it feels hard, right, because it's new to you, yeah, your mind's going to wander. So what? Come back when you catch it. It's going to wander. So what? Come back when you catch it. Visualization is no different than working out at the gym or learning a new skill or going to a job. It's just a practice, and you just have to trust that it gets easier and easier as you do it.
Right. Not everyone is good at visualization. I'm not really good at it. Sometimes I have to practice and like start with something simple, like maybe a watermelon, and then when I visualize it, then I can start going into like details and the colors and the stripes on the watermelon. Or maybe there's like a yellow spot in the watermelon, and how does that feel and where's that go? I'm more of a feeling, which it's kind of a different because everyone is unique. Like either feel here, see, or you can sense, or you can smell. There's different things that different people experience. So whatever feels natural to you. If you get a feel for it, go for it. Go within, get the feeling of what it feels like, and then go to the next feeling and whatever that feels like, and then goes to the next feeling or whatever that feels like, and then keep on going. and in that'll kind of give you a sense of where you're going. And like Kerri said, thoughts will come in, and that's the job of the mind. You get distracted, thoughts will come in, and that's okay. I sometimes I kind of say, okay, not right now. I'm doing something else. I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Like thought will come in, like, oh, you haven't paid your bill. I'm like, oh, not right now. I'm kind of busy. I'll get back to you, and
Yep.
then that keeps coming. So yep.
One thing that I notice is you keep bringing up fruit. Are you hungry? Because I'm chuckling. You like, I love watermelon, so I'm over here salivating as you're describing it because I can sit and
Oh, I'm so sorry
honestly,
about that. No, but this is something I actually started with, and this is what I read on like some of the books on visualization, because like I'm not really good at visualization, and so that was an exercise that I was doing for quite a bit of time,
yeah,
because like it goes in the details where they say, well, now that you're able to practice and you visualize the watermelon for a couple of weeks, now next week or whatever when you get it, then you go even deeper when you're slicing the watermelon and you look inside and you look at the colors inside, and then you can go deeper and visualize even the seeds inside of the watermelon and what color they are, and go even further with that.
well,
So
you know what's
that's why
crazy?
that was the first thing that popped to mind.
I can visualize it
Go ahead.
while you're doing it right now. Like my brain immediately is like breaking it down, and I'm thinking of the texture and the scent and the rind and I'm like, I could go for a piece of watermelon right now. I'm just saying, but but going back to it, but but I think you touched upon a really important point, and I know we talk about it often, but I don't think that we can say it enough is that you have to do what feels good for you, right? It has
Right.
to feel right for you. There's no right or wrong way to achieve success at something. But it is important that you recognize that it has to resonate with you, right? Like I work with people and help support people on their journey, much like Yanko, but we do it in different ways. And it's only because it feels right for me and he does what feels right for him. And because we do what feels right for us, we're able to achieve results that are profound, right? Because we're not listening to what we think we need to do. We're not following a book's verbatim. We're doing, oh, okay, this makes sense for me. And I really want to impress upon people. And I said this yesterday in my community too. Our job is as supportive guides and whatever it is we are, right? Like, however you want to define it, is not to tell you how to live. It's to help you get curious so you can figure out what feels right for you so you can live and feel good about whatever it is you experience in this world, right? Yeah. Want to add to that, Yanko?
That's right. Yeah. Give you a different perspective. That's all I can say. Because like sometimes, yeah, sometimes you just need a different perspective.
Yeah.
Somebody to tell you, you know what, like this is so interesting that you brought it up. I never thought about it. Maybe I'll try it this way, or I'll try something else. So if you're open to different perspective, because like everyone is different, and everyone has a different experience, it's a wonderful thing. Wonderful things will happen, or happening,
Yeah.
because they're happening.
Well, it what you said about different perspective reminds me of a book I read years ago, and it's called Think Again by Adam Grant. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And it was such a profound read for me, and I'll tell you why. Because essentially he goes through all the scientific data and stuff, right? We know that our belief systems are embedded into us from in utero to about 6 or 7, all that, but we never stop to question our beliefs. But when you start to question your beliefs every 2 to 3 years, you realize those belief systems are outdated and probably don't serve you, or at least some of them don't serve you. And so when you talk to other people and get different perspectives, and you come from a place of curiosity, then you're able to then consider a different strategy, a different possibility of how you could move through the same experience and all of that stuff. And that's really what I would encourage anybody to do, is to question your own beliefs. If you don't feel 100% good, yummy, awesome, um ask yourself, does this serve me? Maybe it does in the moment, right? Like, watching somebody struggle that you love isn't going to feel great, but or maybe the idea doesn't serve you. So just kind of being open to new perspectives and then playing with them to see if it's a good fit for you and how you want to experience life.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. And I want to remind our people that are watching us, if you have any questions, drop them in. We'll like to chat and make this more engaging, and answer any questions. And like Tarek was asking earlier, it's a wonderful thing. So, and
Yeah.
please follow us on social media. We do that every Friday, 1 p.m. Central to Eastern and 11 a.m. Pacific time. Um, and
I'm curious,
go ahead.
since this show is for no particular reason. I have a no particular reason question. Do you have a favorite color?
I do, yes. You want to know my favorite
Of
color?
course.
It's blue.
I love it. That's a
What
throw
is your
shot
favorite
for
color?
everybody. You know
I
what?
know.
Interestingly enough,
I know.
my favorite color is blue. However, my power,
Really? You
yeah,
have the same?
favorite
Wow.
color.
Okay.
I wonder if it's because we're both May babies. But
Maybe.
interestingly enough, my power color is black. Like, and I think that's what drew me to the question, because your shirt today, I'm like, ooh, Yanko's rocking like my color. If you notice, I'm generally in black, and I love black. In fact, I had a woman who looked at my website, a website designer. I didn't ask her to look at it, but she's a friend of mine, and she was like, Kerri, your website's just far too dark. You can't have it that way. I said, I can have it any way I want, and I like the color
Exactly.
black.
Exactly.
I'm
It's
like,
your
I'm not
website.
changing it.
It's your website. You can have it any way you want to.
Absolutely. I'm like, I'm keeping it. Yep. So your favorite color is blue. I love it. As you can tell, it's kind of the theme in my room for a reason. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, interestingly enough, I truly believe I was born with my throat chakra open. And for anybody out in the audience who's like, what is she talking about? I've essentially had verbal diarrhea of the mouth since I could talk. Like when I was 5 years old, I got the award in kindergarten for most talkative. And I feel like I'm going to be 44 in a couple of weeks, and I still could totally take that award. And that's the color of your throat chakra. So I feel like it's been cracked open since I was born.
Yeah, with some people it works that way, and you don't realize that colors can have an effect on you because they're vibration as well.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, and this is kind of like why you want to be mindful of like what colors you use in your room or your bedroom or whatever colors you want to have in the house all around, or if it's just like white, it's pretty kind of okay with pretty much everything. In green will help with the heart. In blue with the throat. It's
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it's so funny because white is the epitome of boring to me. Like I go into all these people's houses and I'm like, "Bleh." Because
It's all
obviously,
white, right?
I mean, if you can't tell out there, audience, I'm a little bit unique, and I mean, I'm a colorful person, so to speak, and so I love color. I just it just and in fact, the way I met my boyfriend, I was sitting outside a gas station, and he gets out of the car, and I noticed he had bright yellow hair and a ton of red on, and that's what drew me to him to spark a conversation. Was I found the color palette he was wearing very interesting, and so clearly I'm not shy. So I'm like, hey, dude, you have a unique look to you. But that's the thing is I love expression. I love color. I just love it. So white is never gonna be the
It's
color. So Nana, if
yeah.
you're out there, we ain't having no white house if we ever live together. But he already knows because I give him a hard time. Correct says I feel people's energy when I um feel taking away from them, and it feels to me as if I'm helping them. What's your
Yeah, I'll
guys'
bring
thought?
it on
Hang
the
on.
screen.
Go ahead. You read that again, Yanko. I'm gonna read it again. I think I need clarity, Tarek. So I'm from what you said, and I am you like to absorb their negative energy and take it away from them. Is that what you said?
I think that's how I'm understanding it as well. If he wants to type in a follow up on that,
While
and then
he
we're gonna
does,
bring it up to our audience. Yes, he says yes. All right, there you go. He responded.
um, okay. Do you want to go first? Did you want me to?
No, go ahead because you got the thought. I don't want to interrupt, and then I'll go on it.
I don't take away people's energy because that's the experience that they are having, and I don't know why they're having that experience. However, I do bring my energy to the table, and it's going to do one of two things for them, right? They're going to be really repulsed by it because it's going to feel icky to them because it's a unrelatable energy, or their energy will shift, right? So if I walk I like you, I'm highly intuitive and I can sense exactly where people's states are, right? But it's not for me to assume whether or not they should be in that state or not. I don't know. That's like me telling them how they should experience their journey. What I
Right.
will not do is I will not shift my energy to meet theirs. And so if a person is open to shifting their energy, then they're gonna absorb some of the positive energy that's coming from me and be affected. But that has to be their choice. And I'll give you a really good example. Yanko and I were in a different state before we jumped on this show, and then just our energetic vibration kind of shifted in our interaction, but that was our individual choices. And I really do try not to project how I think somebody else should be experiencing whatever it is they're going through. That's just my personal position. What would you say, Yanko? Yeah, of course, you're right,
Yeah, I
Tarek.
would say the same thing because at the beginning I wanted to do this kind of thing to anybody, but then we're living in the free will, and everybody has different things that they have to learn, and it feels to me now that if I do something without the other person's like agreement or asking or even being curious, I don't impose upon them. Like I don't go and say this is how you should be because I'm not shooting people. Like it's their choice and they're learning something from it. And for me to go and do what I think is right because I don't know. It always this exact thing every time I'm in that kind of situation, I think of that um, Alan Watts quote where he says, "Let me help you set the monkey to the fish not drown by bringing you up on the tree." So how do you know that you're actually helping somebody or not helping somebody, and you're just not doing something for yourself, thinking I am great, fitting up your ego, like I'm helping all those people and everything. So that's how I think about that.
Yeah. But you're right, Tarek. I mean, people obviously absorb energy, right? And so it's interesting. um I'm not like you. I absolutely can feel people's energy. And of course, so here's the thing. I work with people who are seeped in active addiction and severe mental illness, right? So I want you to think about that from the energetic vibration perspective, and we can absolutely measure energy. um these are people who are in low vibrations. When I'm around them, yes, they are being infused with my energy, and that has a temporary effect on them, but they've hired me to do that, right? But I also do have to take care of my energy, because even if you say it doesn't affect you, you are in a space of other people's energy, and if you're not like releasing that, you are taking it on, like, because we're all one. So I would just say, just be mindful. And look, I agree. We just talked about shifting energy through movement, through music, through conversation. So it's not that we can't be supportive and just, but I help people shift their energy by just being me, without assuming that I need to do something for them. And if it shifts their energy, all the better. That's like a bonus, but it's not something I feel I have to do intentionally.
Yeah, you just show up in love, and that's all it needs.
Boom.
Like you
You
don't.
said it.
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah. You
and
don't. You don't.
yeah, cuz to
Yeah,
me, love, unconditional love, is meeting a person exactly where they're at with no expectation and loving them for that. And I really, really work incredibly hard to do that. And I find, to your point, Yanko, when I'm in ego and I think that, like, think about it, and it's like the dying bee analogy, right? We see a bee on the side of the road, and its life is ending. Like, its physical experience is ending. It's not my place to kill it. Like, but my ego is saying, "Ooh, this thing's suffering." And you could potentially put it out of its misery, but it's not my place. I don't think unless the bee tells me kill me, I just don't know that I would do that. I don't know. Oh,
how
that's
to protect
such
my
a
own
great
energy now? He asked.
question,
Yeah.
Tarek. I'm gonna let you, Yanko, go ahead. You want to go there?
I don't know, because like at the beginning, a couple years back, I was protecting my energy, but now it's more of a boundary, and that is like going in an energetic level. I just set boundaries up with whoever I am, and that's kind of like, yeah, here you go.
Oh, Gil, my
Yeah, there you
another
go.
amazing, brilliant person. The question is how to protect your own energy. So it's interesting. I'm like you. I have boundaries, so I know when I I just know, right? But there were many ways that I protected my energy. There's cord cutting, intention setting. People visualize lights around them, crystals. Certain people use salt. So there's tons of different methods. I've used different crystals at different times in my life. I've every time that I have a client and um oh, of course, Tarek, I love the people I work with, but that doesn't mean I want to absorb their energy. It doesn't take away the fact that I don't love them. It just means that I want a clear channel of energy for myself. And it's important for me. And so boundaries is just getting clear on what it is you can do and what it is that you're not able to do in that moment. But for me, I love that. So yeah, so no permission to enter her energy, right? Kind of like what Yanko and I
There you
said,
go.
where there's boundaries. There's just like that boundary that
Yeah.
you're not going to put your energy into my space. And that's a practice. That's like a intentional setting of your sphere, and you just get really clear on that. So very, I
It comes.
love.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Yanko.
I was gonna say there comes a time when you outgrow the need of protection because you're just vibrating in a different energy, and there is like a huge difference. And people that are not matching that energy, they're just gonna turn around and walk away. They're
Yep.
not. There's not gonna be any need to protect yourself from anything. Um, Even like yeah, when you know it, you know it. When you get there, you know, like there's no need for protection.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's so funny because,
And
like,
Gail has a follow up.
yeah, yeah, like you just observe what's going on. But I'm gonna follow up with what you said, Yanko, in that there are people who I immediately sense their discomfort. And usually, interestingly enough, some of these people are immediate family members. And so I kind of remove myself from their space, not because I don't love them, but because it's clear to me that they're very, very, very uncomfortable. Like, I make them nervous, but because they're conditioned and unconscious, they can't put context to why they feel that way. And because I know, I just remove myself so that they can feel calm, like, or whatever, because they don't know and they don't want to know. And it's not for me to tell them where they're at, right? They've got to figure that out for themselves. So, um, any last words before we sign off and say peace and chicken grease for the week?
I don't have anything. I was just gonna add that usually, even when you observe, it's not enough because you're not. You only doing about, I don't know, let's say in my experience maybe 40% visual, because I'm not really visual at the beginning anyways, but you have a lot of other sensors that are running a background that are running in like a deeper with the subconscious. So it's not like you might be just sitting and not even doing anything and giving signals to the other person that something's up. Like you can be in public, you don't know anybody, but they just feel like you can be on the bus or something, and the body to body energy, everything just exchanges. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And that's why it's interesting, right? Because you and me will get on and you'll be like, hey, are you feeling down? I'm like, I'm not feeling down. Are you feeling down? And that's the thing, is it doesn't matter. We definitely can register, especially when you're in tune with, you just, I don't want to assume for everybody, but for me, I just sense, I feel, and I
Yeah.
definitely am aware of the energy that I am in.
And,
So
and it takes practice because sometimes you can take somebody else's feeling for your own feelings, and that's kind of weird too. Like
thank
you
you.
can be in the room and all of a sudden you feel sad and you don't know why you feel sad, but there's a feeling, and then you start looking around or you feel like anxious. Like I had that experience a couple of times, and that comes with practice, like actually observing. And then I turned around and I said, hey dude, are you anxious? Like what's going on? Are you like having a panic attack or something going on right now? you know
You know what?
So yeah.
I'm gonna go 1 minute over because I wanna respond to that because you're spot on. So I work with clients who numb out a lot, and what I have found, um, with many of these clients, is all of them are highly intuitive. And because they've never been taught that they are intuitive, and they are not only contending with their own feelings, but they're also contending with, interestingly enough, a lot of their family's feelings and or the people they're around most. So they're absorbing all of this anxious depressive energy and taking it on for themselves. And when I start doing work with these people, I start to break that down, and I almost always, like, I'll kind of get a pulse on their family and stuff, and I recognize immediately they're intuitive, and I have to start to teach them to practice that, because once they start to identify that it's not necessarily their feelings, they're able to free themselves from suffering that wasn't even theirs in the first place.
That's right.
I froze again, didn't
Yeah.
I?
No, you're okay. I'm just agreeing
Cool.
with you.
Yeah.
So
All right.
let's wrap it up. Tarek says last words. He says, pleasure, guys, engaging with you today. Come on back next Friday. We'll love to have you. And please do engage with us. We'll love to be in kind of conversation. You don't have to agree with us. Share your thoughts. Send us an email. For anybody else that's watching this on the recording or anything, we'll be happy to answer anybody. And thank you for stopping by.
Appreciation. Have a blessed, joy-filled, and most of all, laughter-filled week, guys. Until next time, big love.
Bye-bye.